Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Finally Quit Porn podcast. This one is going to be a super short one. We just want to talk about the topic of blockers once again, as we think it's really, really important. So, Mary, welcome back. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good today. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. It's been a good week. So,
Getting
you wanted
hot
to,
over here in Portland, so we're just kind of hanging on for the heat wave. But yeah,
nice. Yeah,
I kind of like it. I like the night when the days are super hot. I like the hot summer nights. Like to sit
mm,
outside on hot summer nights and it's full moon tonight, solstice. Happy solstice, by the way. And last night the moon was huge. It was so cool, but it's actually I think right now like its fullest. So tonight's going to be gorgeous and it's clear and it's hot and so yeah, I'm
awesome.
looking forward to tonight and having some time outside with the moon and the heat. So yeah.
Nice. Sounds
Yeah.
great. Very wholesome. So, yeah, today you wanted to talk a little bit about blockers. I know we touched on them a bit in the last podcast with Daniel Z. Lieberman. So, yeah, how come you wanted to talk about blockers?
Well, just because I just hope that it's like really, really clear that blockers are validating helplessness. Because if you're putting in a blocker, what does that say to you? I can't, I can't control myself. I can't make a choice if I end up seeing this now or seeing whatever. If you're on Instagram or whatever, you're going to see stuff. And we talked ad nauseum about triggers. The thing is that the triggers are going to happen in your brain. So what are you going to do? Put a blocker in your brain? They probably try to do that. That'll be next, right? It's like, no, oh, they do have like some drugs that are probably strong enough that just turn off all feeling, people walking around like zombies, to try not to feel their compulsive desires or whatever. But the implication there is if I see this, whatever content, that in the face of it, I'm helplessness. So I have to block myself from it completely. It's the idea, even like with you know, avoidance, right? Don't go to the bar if you're an alcoholic. Don't, what are you gonna do? Just like not leave your house? I mean, these blockers are clearly stating that I am not capable of making a choice for myself for the long term. And the thing is too, is that it not only does it imply that you aren't capable of making the choice, but if you're just putting up a blocker, you're not doing any work on your neural pathways to actually change it. So I was working with a gambling client, and his parents put up blockers. And so I had to tell him, because I mean, they think that's the thing to do because that's what all the popular advice is. I said, you know, you block this, block that, other stuff's going to come up. It's like if you aren't prepared in the moment to make a choice when you get triggered or whatever, you see some content or you haven't made these changes to your neural pathways, blockers are they're not only useless, but they're going to work against you because you think, oh, I'm just blocked. So you don't do any of the mental work that you need to do to be empowered in the moment to make a choice, no matter what. And I was working yesterday with a smoker, and I'm like, you could surround me with lit cigarettes, coming from nicotine addiction myself, my history, you could surround me with lit cigarettes and I would not be even remotely tempted or think, oh, I want to take a drag off one of those. I get that shit out of here. It reeks. So blockers are not just useless, but they completely work against you as far as really validating helplessness. So that's really what I wanted to say about blockers, because sure is a popular thing. Just don't go there, or it's trying to create deprivation, which is impossible, I mean, okay, so a gambler, now he's got blockers on his phone or whatever, his computer, whatever it is. And now literally there's ads on TV constantly, for that are going to promote gambling or some kind of, You can gamble on your phone now, you can gamble with the NFL, whatever, it's everywhere. It's like, what is the, back to like living in a cave, just gotta roll the big stone over, lock them in the dark. I mean, blockers are ridiculous. So that's all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, sure. I think the piece on deprivation is really important in
Yeah,
particular. And that's around how if you feel like you can't do something because it's there and it is available. So, you could look at porn, but then you feel like you can't have it. It kind of creates these irritable, frustrated feelings, a bit like you're a 5-year-old and maybe your older siblings got a toy that you really, really want, and
yeah,
it's there, and the possibility that, yeah, you could play with that toy, but it's being withheld from you. So you're wanting something, you're craving it, and you can't have it because even if you've installed a blocker, you can get around that. There's
yeah.
always going to be ways to get around that. And another thing I think we've started to see with a few of our guys, especially in the early stages of recovery, is people going, okay, well, I'm not going to look at porn now. I'm making that choice. But what about all these other options? And then they're starting
I,
to get the addiction mixed up with other things like, oh, let me go and have sex with a prostitute or something like that, right? Because they're feeling like they're deprived of porn. Now, obviously, they share that with us, and it's just a junky thought, and they've identified it and they've overcome that thought, but they still share it with us just so we can talk about it
yeah,
and really sort of consolidate that learning that that's not the choice here. The choice is option A or option B.
yeah.
And I think that's really important to point out as well.
Yeah, very important too, because not only are you going to have the feelings of help, you're not only validating that helplessness state, which is right where the addictive part of the mind wants you to be, you're also creating, like you said, the feelings of deprivation. Oh, I can't have it. I can't have it because I'm blocked from it. It makes me think about gastric bypass surgery. They're trying to, it's like a surgical blocker, right? So now your stomach is the size of a golf ball. So in theory, you can't overeat, right? You can't eat, more beyond what is reasonable anymore, but you actually can. But the consequences are going to be way more severe because you're probably going to blow your stitches and end up hospitalized, which most of the gastric bypass people do end up hospitalized. Um, but the other thing is all the people that I've worked with that have gastric bypass surgery have had gastric bypass surgery are literally emotionally devastated because now they've made their stomach the size of a golf ball. There's your blocker, right? And now they still have this compelling desire to eat beyond what is reasonable as coming from their brain. And they're like, oh, fuck, what have I done? Right? It's crazy. Yeah. And yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can get around. Well, you can get around the gastric bypass too, because after a couple of years, your stomach just stretches out. You just got to live in hell for 2 years, and then you're right back where you started. But yeah,
Mm.
it's a horrible place to be. Feelings of deprivation and feeling helpless. Yuck.
Yeah.
No
And I
good.
would say one of the main reasons to ever go beyond compulsion and actually overcome pornography for good is to get peace of mind. I mean, that's on almost all of our clients' B list. It's like peace of mind, mental clarity, feeling free. Like they're some of the top things that I've noticed people talk about.
Right.
And you're not going to have any of those if you've still got blockers in place. You're not going to have that feeling of empowerment. Like I'm the one in control here. I can do what I want. I can go and look at porn. That is an option for me. And having that choice is your freedom. So if you take away that choice by having a blocker in place, which you're not even doing anyway because your choice is still
Yeah.
always going to be there, then you
Yeah.
have this illusion of one, not being in control of yourself, and two, just genuinely not being free. So yeah, I totally agree to not have the
Yeah.
blockers in place.
And the other thing too is if you have the blockers, which may the only benefit of a blocker would be maybe if you have our program and you have your script, it gives you more time to think, right? You can go and think about it. But blockers are just I don't know, they're just gonna completely work against you in every way, shape, and form. because the feelings of deprivation are going to be so strong, and the feelings of helplessness are going to be so strong that you're just going to want to break out of it. So then what you could be very likely to do is, oh, I can't get at that because I'm blocked. But you got all these, you're adding to the feelings with the feelings of deprivation. So now you're going to go substitute some other kind of addictive or compulsive behavior, right? No, great. So now you're going to have multiple addictions and still live in constant conflict, no peace of mind, like you said, still feel helpless, all of it. You're not accomplishing anything by trying to block yourself, you know?
I think the other one, just the final one, and then we'll wrap it up because we're really giving blockers an absolute roasting here.
Yeah.
But with like social media apps, I used to delete those. So, I mean, that's pretty much the same, really. I'd delete the apps from my phone because I was like, if I go on Instagram, I am going to inevitably end up looking at sexual content. So I'd delete or remove my account or whatever, right? I was basically trying to block my access to social media because social media was a path into pornography for me for a couple of years. So I would block it. But then that moment that I re-downloaded it, which would inevitably happen because, you know, in the past I'd be like stressed out or I'd feel lonely or I'd feel tired or anxious or I'd come up with some BS junky thinking and I'd be like, right, you know, I'm just going to download Twitter or Instagram. I'm not actually going to do anything. I'm not going to actually read apps. I'd be the junky thinking going on. And then what's going on is the dopamine is getting activated so much because I'm then so excited. It's like the addictive part of the mind is really back in control in that moment because then it's like, wow, I'm actually about to look at something sexual because usually I wouldn't dare go on social media. So it really
Yeah.
just intermittently reinforces the addicted neural pathways even further. So you really want to watch out
Completely.
for that one.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll wrap it up there. If anyone does want further help with quitting pornography, we do have some free training at the moment. Go to www.thomasmolyneux.com and you can get that for free. Thanks a lot for listening, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye bye.